So the problem that we have is that we want to create all the possible combinations of three sets of words. We have a combination of pronouns. Let's see in the project. Pronouns. So we have the, and what's the other one? Our. Actually, there is a new, very common word that it's not a pronoun, but it's pretty common to see on websites now. Use. Not sure why. And actually, there's another one, get. Right? So you see a lot of websites where the name is get this or get or use something. Right? Actually, the domain of my company is use ascend. The company name is ascend, but the domain name is use ascend. Right? It's like use us. So you will see that pretty common. The other part that we want to, the other set is the great, the big. So let's create another array. And these are what? Adjectives. Okay, so adjectives, big, our. And the last part is the nouns. And the nouns we have jogger and raccoon. Yes. You have a question?
Yeah, big and our, big and great. Array of big. They got adjectives.
Yes.
Our. You said our. Big our.
Wait, what's the issue?
Big and great. Adjective.
Oh, great and big. Right. Oh, right, thank you. Notice. So great. Yeah, of course, adjectives. Great. Okay, yeah, thank you. Good catch. Now, we have this set of words, right? And we want to create all the possible combinations by taking one from every array, right? So we take one for the pronouns array, like say the. We take one from the adjectives array, big, and then we take one from the nouns array, jogger. So we got the, big, jogger. And then we add the .com at the end. And then we can create all the possible combinations. To be able to do that, we need to be able to take one element, so we need to iterate in all the elements of the array. And for every element in the array, we need to do something. So we need to iterate in the elements of the other array. And then when we have the element on the other array, we have the first, the second, and then we iterate in the third array. So it's basically an iteration inside the iteration and then inside another iteration. Okay? So this in a nutshell will be like for let's do, actually we don't need the index, right? So we can use the for of. Make sense? So that will be the pronoun. Pronoun of pronouns. And then inside, we iterate over the adjectives. And then inside, we iterate over the noun. Now, in this section here, if I just console log pronoun plus adjective plus noun, right, I will have essentially my whole domain. Of course, I will have to add the .com. So you see the iteration, how the iteration works. if I iterate, let's say I'm iterating over in pronouns, and I console log that pronoun, what I'm doing is printing in the terminal the, or, use, and get, one after the other. But then, now that I'm in this section, I can then iterate on the second array. And then inside that iteration, let's do one level, adjective of adjectives. Remember, the code inside the loop will get executed. But if the code inside the loop is another loop, that loop then will get executed as soon as that loop, and it will exit when the loop ends. So the first loop will run once, and then the second loop will run many times, and then the third loop will run even more times, right? Because we are getting all the combinations. So at this point we have console log pronoun plus adjective. Let's run it with only 2 levels, and you will see how that works. So the first, let's say we are manually, let's assume the role of the computer for now, and let's try to run this mentally, right? Or manually, whatever you say. So the first iteration, we are here, and the pronoun value, let me put a couple of, what will be the value of pronoun?
Pronoun?
Yeah, the variable pronoun will have different values. What will be the first value? The. Okay? Now, it will take this value. I'm over here. Let me put it in a different color so you can see. So I'm over here in this first instruction. It takes the value the, right? And then it starts executing everything inside the loop. Okay? Now, inside the loop, we have another loop. And this first loop say, okay, adjective is a new variable, and it will take all the values of the array adjectives. So that means that adjective equals what? Big. And then it will run here inside the console log. So console log will console log this, pronoun plus adjective. That will be what in the terminal? So in the terminal we will see the big. Okay. Now, when this first console log ends, the for loop runs the second one, right? Because we have more elements in this array. Notice that I'm running inside this loop, not the other loop, just inside the inside loop. So the next element of this adjective is what? Grade. So now it runs with grade. So it will print in the terminal the grade. Okay? Now, when this for loop ends, because adjective only have 2 values, right? Big and grade. Once it ends, then it will end. So it will come here, and then it will end this first loop, and it will move to the second loop of the outer of the pronouns, right? So what's the next pronoun? Our. By the way, when this is happening, adjective doesn't exist anymore in memory, because adjective ceases to exist as soon as we ended this first loop, right? At this point, here, adjective doesn't exist. At this point, adjective, the variable that I'm using to loop doesn't exist anymore. So I don't need it in memory. And then I come back here and I take the next pronoun. The next pronoun is our. And then with the next pronoun our, I go and execute this loop again. And this loop will create an adjective variable, and it will be what value?
Big.
Big again, yeah. So it will loop again through all the elements of the second array. So now we will have in the terminal, we will have our big. So you see where I'm going with this is that for every element of the first array, it will iterate through all the elements of the second array. So it will set one here, and then it will iterate through all the other ones, and then it will move to the next, and then it will iterate all the other ones. and so on and so forth. Now, this needs to be extended one more level because it's pronouns, adjectives, and nouns. Okay, so you need to add one more level and then console log the whole combination. Okay, so that's the project. You got the essence of how the project should be fixed, should be solved, but the part of creating the project and writing the code and running the code is the thing that we will practice most today. So I will not go into that detail. You have to do it by yourself. And the instructions are here. So we have a template that we have to use. This is the vanilla hello template. We used it in last class. So we have to use it again today. Okay? Let's do it. And let me stop this.